Hello and welcome to episode 3 of the second season of the Detours in Music podcast. My name is Laura Ruppel, and today we're joined with Jackie Leclair, Associate Professor of Oboe at McGill University in the Schulich School of Music. Hope you enjoy.
My name is Jackie Leclair. I teach oboe at McGill University, the Schulich School of Music. I'm a full-time professor there. And I also perform concerts as an oboist and English hornist regularly, especially in New York City, but also here. I'm a permanent resident of Canada, but I'm a citizen of the United States. I grew up in Syracuse, New York, and went to high school in Sarasota, Florida. But so I've done this and that throughout my career.
Yeah.
Nice to talk to you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Can you talk about your start in music?
Sure. I was really lucky to attend a very good school, kind of a country day school outside of Syracuse called Manlius Pebble Hill School for first through sixth grades. And our music teacher, Mrs. Robertson, taught us to read music. I don't know how, because we were just 6. But we were reading music, singing songs, because she would have us change parts. And she taught us rhythm games with these neat sticks. And so reflecting back now as an adult musician, I think, wow, that was cool. That was great. And then my class, there were only 7 students or so in my class. We went over to the music barn, and an instrumental music teacher there, Mrs. Lowe, Loewe, maybe? She taught us recorder. So we all learned recorder together. Mm-hmm. And I just really liked it. I had played piano, which, was okay, but it wasn't really my thing. I wasn't drawn to the piano, say. I enjoyed singing, but I never had a great voice. But I really liked recorder. I thought, this is cool.
Yeah.
This is great. I don't know. I was just a kid. I didn't think about it. I just did it. Mm-hmm. And so I just kept playing recorder and sort of joined the band, which consisted of like 4 kids, like French horn, clarinet, snare drum, and me on recorder. Anyway, so Mrs. Lowe wrote a note home to my mother suggesting the oboe as an instrument. And that is plain and simple why I play the oboe. There's no other reason. We visited my grandparents in Boston, and they went to Symphony Hall all the time. I went to the concerts, but I wasn't, frankly, I wasn't like, oh, wow, classical music's so great. Not at all. I was fine, but I just liked almost the athletic aspect of it. I just liked playing the wind instruments, and I got the oboe and I had lessons with Mrs. Lowe. And then right away, I had a rented oboe, and I had private lessons with the new second oboist of the Syracuse Symphony, Pat Sharp was her name. And she was very, very young looking back. She must have been in her 20s, and she stayed in the Syracuse Symphony until they were dissolved a few years ago. So that's a really long time, because I started studying with her when I was 8, I was about 8 years old. She started me making reeds when I was 10, so it was unusual in that sense. Now I realize, because by the time I was 13, I was making reeds for myself. I never freaked out about reeds,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really enjoy making reeds. Yeah, so I decided when I was 9 I wanted to be a professional oboist, because I didn't know that word, I don't think. I had to look it up, and I practiced in my bedroom. I practiced saying, I'm going to become a professional oboist, because, grown-ups ask you that question all the time. What are you going to be when you grow up? So I practiced saying, I'm going to become a professional oboist. So I remember that very clearly.
Yeah.
And I'd get a new book of exercises, and I'd grab the book, and I thought, I'm going to play every single note in this book. I was just very enthusiastic about it. Mm-hmm. And then I just followed. I just did what my teachers told me to do, I think, and eventually wound up in orchestras, and probably almost all of things like repertoire, like Beethoven symphonies or overtures. A lot of the first times I heard them when I was playing them in orchestras, and so it was gradually I realized, wow, classical music is really, really cool. That was kind of my path, and I just was very, very focused from age 9 up until age 14, and in grades 10 through 12, I was in Sarasota, Florida, 9 through 12 in Sarasota, Florida, and 10 through 12, I went to a performing arts high school
Okay.
It was a magnet program at Booker High School in Sarasota, Florida. And so in the morning we had academic classes, and in the afternoon we had music classes. So that was really a great head start in terms of learning theory and four-part writing and species counterpoint and so on. And then went to the Eastman School of Music to study with Richard Kilmer. And in hindsight, I think that was a good choice. I could have gone to a whole variety of schools, but I chose to go to Eastman, which turned out well for me. It was kind of good luck, I think.
Yeah. Do you think when you initially said, I want to be a professional oboist, that was kind of just something to say, or when did that switch flip in your mind that really was what you wanted to do?
Well, we are talking about a 9-year-old, so we're not, it's sort of uninformed in a certain basic sense.
Yeah.
I think I just had a strong sense, like, yeah, this is my thing.
Okay.
I do this, this is what I'm going to do. I didn't think about making a living or what, day-to-day professional life, or, it was like a switch flipping, but it was sort of a very childlike decision, and I remember when I was 18 or 19 at Eastman, I remember reflecting for a moment that, I never thought about doing something else. And it just kind of hit me, like, I could have done English literature, or, there's lots of other things I enjoy. And I thought, maybe I should have thought about something else. And then I figured, well, all right, too late now.
I like it enough, I'll do it.
But yeah, I was just very, very single-minded throughout my childhood and teens on oboe and music. Yeah, just super focused.
When you were at Eastman, what was something that you look back and realize that you really were struggling with?
Struggling. I find life to be a struggle. It's like, I would almost say life is struggle.
Yeah.
I think we maybe have a little bit of a funny idea that somehow life should be easy. And I don't think life's easy. I think life is a sort of wonderful struggle. Sometimes it's more wonderful, sometimes more difficult. But I embrace the idea of struggle. You have to struggle to get to the top of a mountain, don't you? You have to struggle to read the Iliad. The struggle's good. When I was undergrad, I'm 53 now, so I was an undergrad from age 17 to 21. So I think I was finding myself. I think I had to learn how to find my place in with my peers. I don't know if it was a struggle, but academics I've always enjoyed. I never, it was pretty easy in terms of getting good grades and stuff like that. I'm just lucky in that sense. But I think figuring out kind of society and how to navigate it,
Yeah.
I think, I was kind of a loner in high school, very much actually. And I think that was really the big journey I had to go on. I was already very advanced musically and oboistically by the time I was 17, because I just practiced so much when I was a kid. And, I'd get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and practice before school.
Yeah.
And I've practiced it a lot. So it wasn't so much the oboe that I had to work on, funnily enough. It was more, I think it was just figuring out who I was in the context of society. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure that's a much more relatable answer than most people would admit, so.
Yeah, well, you have to do that, don't you? When you're going from age 17 to 21. In our society, maybe many societies, that's a very important transitional period.
What's some advice you have for young oboists?
Young oboists. Love reed making. Love it. It's wonderful. It's a great, great thing. And, there's enough drama and emotional complexity in life without having it with dried pieces of grass, people. It's just is what it is. And, there's there's ups and there's downs. And, if you just make a lot of reads and you do it really well, really logically, it's cool. And it gets better and better and easier as you go through life. So I just say no to read drama. I think that, I think the most important thing is to trust yourself, to get in touch with your inner voice, to, try to ignore all those loud, noisy voices and influences and screens and all this stuff and videos, and realize that, this is my life, this is my path, this is my journey. I'm choosing to play, Britten Metamorphoses or Tuning A or whatever it is, and to be, clear that this is what I choose to do, and it's joyful, it's wonderful, it's a privilege,
Definitely.
Yeah, and to just really try to keep a clear, sort of sweet mind about it. And it's not about competition. It's, someone else wins a competition. Well, great for them. If you do, well, great. It's not what it's about. It's about the process. I mean, we all know that about mindfulness, and it's commonly thrown around these days. It's about the journey. It's not about the goal or the end point. It really is true, to really forget about what if I mess up in my recital? It doesn't matter. It's not about the outcome. It's about how wonderful a journey is it, because even though, like, if you play the Vaughan Williams Concerto in a concert, you've done that.
Yeah.
And it's wonderful. It seems like an outcome, doesn't it? It seems like an event, like, oh, wow, that happened. Wow, she did that. That was great. But it's really just part of the journey. There really is no finished product ever, It's really just making our way through life collaboratively and nicely and sweetly, and helping other people is really important to me. And things come together, So I think just kind of focusing on that kind of thing. And, read T.S. Eliot, read the Tao Te Ching, that we've had good advice for 3,000 years,
Yeah.
It's all different religions, all different philosophies have really good advice. Read it.
Yeah. Since you had that moment in your undergrad of thinking, wow, I never pursued another career, since then, have you thought of either diversifying your career path or just your career focus?
Well, until I was in my late 20s, I never even thought, I could almost say I never thought once about teaching. I was,
okay.
I was aware that teaching happened and that kind of thing, but it was never something that I planned to do. I was focused on playing. I got a job in a Spanish orchestra. I did that for 3 years. I moved to New York City. I freelanced. It was just play. I just wanted to play, and I love playing. I still do. And so when I got a job at Mannes College when I was about 27, after I'd moved to New York from Spain, it was just kind of handed to me. There wasn't any interview process or anything. It would never happen today. And I started teaching high school kids in it was in the pre-college division. And frankly, I took it to make money. It's New York City. I was playing the oboe, for heaven's sake. I had to make money. Right. And I realized that I really had no idea how to teach. I remember a kid who was probably 14 where I was giving him a lesson, probably on Barrett or something. And I told him, I said, okay, that's good, but your staccato should probably be bouncier. And he looked at me with his 14-year-old eyes and said, okay, how do I do that? And I thought to myself, oh my God.
Like, just do it.
You think it how you want it to go, and it comes out that way.
Yeah.
And so looking back, I could play the oboe very well at age 27. I can say that because it's long enough ago now. But I didn't know how I was doing it.
Yeah.
I had no idea in many ways how I was doing it, So I spent and I was smart enough to realize how incompetent I was. So I started trying to figure it out. And I spent a good 10 years figuring out how to do my job as a teacher, because it was completely different from rehearsing and performing. And in the process, to answer your question, I realized teaching is super awesome, cool. This is great. I learn while I teach. It's interesting. It's rewarding. It's inspiring. I had no idea, and it was a tremendous discovery. So um, uh, I started to do more master classes because I realized that I could do. I liked new music, which I discovered late in my undergrad and certainly during my graduate years. I realized I very much was attracted to different kinds of musical languages. My brain just really liked swimming in those waters.
Mm.
Shifting paradigms I enjoy. So so I was flutter tonguing and doing all this stuff, and I realized not everybody knew how to do that. So I started giving master classes on, quote unquote, extended techniques. I still do to this day.
Mm-hmm.
um, that became a thing, the teaching in the masterclass context, and I found that was rewarding and interesting and inspiring and challenging. And then learning how to teach one-on-one, I did more of that. And then when I was about 37, I decided, you know what? I've been in New York 10 years. Now would be a good time to kind of cash in my chips and get a full-time teaching job so I can just play the cream of the crop concerts that I want to play, but then have a salary and have the freedom to, as a researcher and so on. So that's when I made that move.
Do you find that teaching extended techniques comes easier to you because you had to teach yourself how to play them?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how to. I keep nothing to compare it with.
Yeah.
Each person I work with is an individual, and I really try to go to where they are and try to use words that will resonate with them. Demonstrate it. What works really well with oboist A might not work with oboist B. So it's to really try to be as flexible and creative and responsive and perceptive as possible. So it's like everything in life, or almost everything. It's about communication. It's not about me having information and giving it to you. It's about the quality of the communication and how can we grow as individuals. So it's not about flutter tongue. It's about communication.
Mm-hmm. I guess teaching a step further, what was the process like of trying to actually write down your thoughts into a book that you would want everyone to be able to get something out of?
Oh, the book I wrote about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was a unique situation where I was still working in Ohio at Bowling Green State University when the publisher asked me to send them writing samples, and we signed a contract that I would deliver the manuscript. And I believe I just agreed to deliver the manuscript in March 2013. And when I signed the contract, I had no idea that at that point I was going to be in my first year of a new job at McGill University. So I didn't work on the manuscript at all until, as one normally would, ahead of time. I started writing that book in December 2012, 3 months before the manuscript was due.
Oh my.
Yeah, so I had when winter break started. So I taught my first semester here at McGill, a brand new job, brand new country, brand new everything. And then winter break started, and I was in my studio every day, and except there was a snowstorm at one point. I couldn't get into my studio, but I was in there writing every day, and that's all I did. I just wrote the book. And then a graduate student, Alana Henkel, she helped me edit it and go through a process of refining it. Yeah, she's great. So I think it was just the format's very easy. It's just topic, brief. It's so I just banged it out really, really fast. And most of these things I've been doing for years and years and years. So it's just a question of writing it down. I wasn't really reflective about it at all. I just sort of went for it, and yeah, trying to think, of course, what is useful for people. What are some ideas that might be new and helpful, or maybe a little different from what they've heard before, in terms of offering value to the reader. Yeah.
Well, I definitely have enjoyed that book since it came out.
Thank you. I'm glad to know it.
Of course. I guess switching topics a little bit, when you look back over your career, are there detour moments that you can pinpoint?
I've always felt pretty comfortable with changing paths. With I didn't. My family moved a lot when I was growing up. There were a lot of changes. I've always had to be kind of quick on my feet, and my personality is such that, as I said, like shifting paradigms, I like that. So not everyone is like that. A lot of people feel more uncomfortable with change. So when things do change, like I took a job in an orchestra in Spain. I didn't know how long I'd be there. It turned out to be just 3 years, and I realized orchestra is not for me. So it's more just like I've kind of look at life like as an improvisation. When I take a job, do I plan to stay in a job? Well, I plan to do a good job today and tomorrow, but I don't know what the future holds. I just try to take care of the fires at my feet the best I can and be as responsible and productive as I can. And I kind of feel comfortable saying, well, let's see what life brings, and just be ready for it. So there are twists and turns in life, but I guess I just feel like that's sort of a natural way to move through life.
Yeah, I agree. What drew you to the job that you have today?
I didn't see the job listed. The school
Okay.
the school contacted me and invited me to apply, which is very nice and very flattering. And I almost didn't apply, actually, because I heard that there was this massive strike. This was in 2011, I guess. 2011, and I didn't really know much about this school here at McGill, but I knew there was this huge strike at McGill, and so I didn't submit my materials, and so the day before they were due or something, someone contacted me and said, are you going to apply? And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. And so I very, very, very quickly threw together, recordings and cover letter and so on, and did apply. And they invited me as a finalist, which they didn't do until March. So the McGill cycle is much later than the American music schools. So I kind of forgot about it, but then I remember it was mid-February or something. I was visiting friends down in Florida, and I got this invitation to come and audition for the job. I was like, oh my gosh, wow, okay. I was kind of surprised, and then again I kind of forgot about it because they didn't get back to me. But then April 15th it was. I remember they offered me the job, and you could have knocked me over with a feather. So and then, because that's when you have to make a decision, until someone offers you a job, there's no decision to make. There's no point in fretting about it or even thinking about it too much, because there's no decision to make. It's when they offer you the job, that's when, okay. So I never thought I'd move to Canada. I just didn't know. And what about retirement plans? What about crossing the border? What about the US Canadian dollar exchange? I didn't know. I just didn't know. And so I kind of jumped off a cliff and decided to move to McGill. I asked for advice, from people I could. But ultimately I just kind of went with my gut and decided, there's no way to know how this is going to turn out. I just have to make the decision, and I did. And I think to carry your contentment or your happiness or whatever with you, that it's not dependent on a job, or it's not dependent on what kind of car you drive. It's just something that you have inside of you. So I think you can go to this job, that job, and you'll figure it out.
In your job, or even just in the oboe world, what are some of your goals for the future?
Oh, gee. Well, I'm on a 1 year sabbatical right now, so I've been working on. I am working on some projects. Today and tomorrow, I'm finalizing a CD of works for English horn alone.
Mm.
It's 7 pieces for English horn alone, that one of which I commissioned, and that's my first solo CD. So I'm very excited about that. That's been a big, exciting project. That will be released in October
Okay.
on New Focus Recordings. So I'm excited about showing these 7 pieces and what the English horn can do. I think the English horn tends to be very much, not all the time, but most of the time, kind of relegated to being just the singing beauty, pretty, beautiful soloist in the orchestra for, Berlioz' Roman Carnival, or the William Tell Overture of Rossini, or Dvorak New World Symphony. We all know these solos, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the English horn, it's like a cameo appearance, and I think the English horn can do a lot more than that. The English horn can be a fully developed, complex protagonist as in terms of musical expression.
Mm-hmm.
And the 7 pieces that I recorded demonstrate that range, I think, from very beautiful and tonal or modal to extremely new musical languages. So I hope to contribute that imagination and that kind of emancipation of the English horn
Yeah.
to the musical world, and hope to encourage, thereby encourage more composers to write for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I focus a lot on students, that, I want to help students as much as I can, and it's about their journey. It's not about mine.
Right.
So to try to understand what each student wants to do, and try to think creatively how to facilitate their progress as much as I can. That's really inspiring and gratifying work to do.
Mm-hmm.
What else? I'm writing 2 articles. One about Oliver Nussen's writing for English horn, and it's been great researching that, and I'm going to publish that article probably in the Double Read Journal.
Mm-hmm.
And also I'm writing an article about the fascinating figure from the past. He died in December 1978. Joseph Marx. He was a wonderful, fascinating character, oboist and musicologist and publisher. So I want to contribute those to the community as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, quotes are wonderful. I've had lists of quotes for many, many years, and I'll sometimes include them at the end of syllabuses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're great to consider and to try to consider deeply. It's really easy to go through something quickly and superficially. I like the Virgil Thompson one. I thought that one got my attention probably the most. Something to the effect that music will never let you down. Life brings you ups and downs, but music will never let you down.
And the Virgil Thompson quote was, "I've never known a musician who regretted being one. Whatever deceptions life may have in store for you, music itself is not going to let you down."
That's kind of going back to the idea we were discussing about trusting yourself and focusing on the journey and the quality of your experience, not stressing, not anxiety, not goal-oriented thinking. I think that's where he's coming from, and I very much resonate with that. That when you strip away all that unnecessary, silly stuff, music is incredibly rich. It's an amazing thing that we have. That if we're talking about basically Western art music, and the rich, diverse culture of music that has become this past 100 years. It's an endless, inexhaustible source of inspiration and challenge and reward. It's just amazing. People can be disappointing, culture can be frustrating, all that kind of thing, but music itself is this this vast repository of and always expanding. I just commissioned one of these new pieces. I got the new score in March and learned it in 8 weeks and recorded the piece. Didn't exist before. Now it exists.
Yeah.
That really resonated with me. And Virgil Thompson, he did win the Pulitzer, but he was not the most satisfied guy in the world. Copeland was much more, right. Copeland was much more successful than he was. He was a fascinating character. Lived to be like 92, right? So he's not the kind of guy who got everything he wanted. He was a critic and a composer. So so knowing there must have been some bittersweet stuff going on with him.
Yeah.
It made me, that resonated with me, that he had the clarity of vision to be like, okay, I haven't gotten everything I wanted in life necessarily, but I have a rich life, and music is your constant rich companion. So I really like that.
Yeah. It's a very kind of what you were saying earlier, where it really is a privilege that music is what we get to spend our time fretting about.
Yeah. Music is very, very elucidating, because we have to be mentally well and strong. Music instructs you how to be a good person. You could almost say that. You have to be physically well. You have to be clear-minded to bring yourself to music, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful life. I had no idea when I was 9 years old that was a good decision I was making.
Yeah.
I think it's just great you're doing this. I liked your creativity and your motivation, and and trying a new format and this new way to share information and ideas.
Yeah,
I think
thank you.
Great way to go. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much for talking with me today. It was nice to catch up with you.
Great to catch up with you. Thank you very much.
I really enjoyed being able to interview Dr. Leclair for today's episode. I've had the pleasure of working with her in numerous settings, master classes, summer festivals, and private lessons. She's someone I look to for reed-making confidence, and as she said in this episode, there is enough drama with Oboe. You don't have to make it about the reeds. If you'd like to keep up with the podcast, there are multiple ways you can do so. First of all, you can go to our website, which is detoursinmusicpodcast.weebly.com. You could also subscribe to our YouTube channel, also called Detours in Music Podcast. We also have a Facebook page and Instagram account where you can like and follow us. And on the first of every month, we have some episodes come out on Apple Music podcast apps and Spotify apps. On these apps, you can subscribe and rate the podcast. If you ever want to get in touch with me and give more direct feedback, you can email me at detoursinmusicpodcast@gmail.com. As always, thank you for listening, and I hope you catch the next one.